Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to another episode of the speculation series for the next Three Kingdoms title from Creative Assembly. So in our last few episodes, we focus on settlement management, but today we are shifting gears as I want to change the topic to characters, as it is one of the core design principles behind Total War Three Kingdoms. And given that the new title will use the romance of Three Kingdoms as the main inspiration, characters will no doubt be once again front and center. Thus, for the next few episodes in this series, I want to share some of the changes I want to see in the new game in regards to characters. And the first thing that I want to change for the new title is to remove deployable female characters from the game. Yes, I'm well aware we are living in a world that is pushing for more gender equality and female representation, which are all great things for the present. But whether you're basing the game off history or the Romance of Three Kingdom novel, there is really no place for deployable female generals, and to be fair, even Total War Three Kingdoms take a pretty half-measured approach by only allowing female characters to be from the Commander, Sentinel, and Strategist classes. But these class limitations are quite meaningless, as every class can be deployed as generals anyways. In my opinion, females of the Three Kingdoms period will actually get better representation if they are presented in the game in a different light, rather than creating a few 3D models and artworks for the more famous female characters and parading them around like eye candy, much like how female representation is treated in other Three Kingdoms games, such as Dynasty Warriors. And because of this focus on the more famous female characters, most of the lesser known warlords in the game start out either with no wives, generic wives, or randomly generated generic wives. And in the next title, I hope the entire marriage system can be reworked to better reflect the time period. Female characters should still be in the game, but they should be undeployable. And instead of giving them a military role inside your faction, they should be providing passive bonuses to their husband and children. The one wife and multiple concubine structure should also be introduced, where the number of concubine increases with prestige rank up, as one's social standing often determined the number of socially acceptable concubines one could have. Also, wives should not be able to become heir, as seeing Lady Wu repeatedly end up as the first Empress of China, as she simply refuses to give over control to Sun Quan in pretty much all my games after 2,500 hours of playing simply doesn't make any logical sense. And the game wants to give them an interim regency role if the heir is underage. That would be fine, but control should automatically be relinquished as soon as the child heir comes of age. Now, for those who want to argue about the historical roles of females in combat during the Three Kingdoms period, my only response is that there has never been any females to lead armies into combat offensively during this period, whether you're using historical records or the Romance of Three Kingdoms. Even Wang Yi, who is probably the only notable female character from this period that ever saw real combat, only fought in defensive siege battles alongside her husband. And actually, Total War games have represented this in the past in Shogun 2, where if your city comes under attack without the lord of the clan alive, then the lady of the house will lead a unique group of female bodyguards to join the defensive garrison in the defense of their capital. And that makes both logical and historical sense, and if Three Kingdoms wants to go in that direction, then they have my blessing. And speaking of things that also make logical sense, using females for espionage through marriage is extremely common, and one of the reasons why Sima Shi had his first wife, Xia Hou killed. And this can also be an extension from the current harmony and disharmony system in the game, where wives and their husband can have multipliers added to the bonus stats based on their existing harmony, while the harmony between the main wife and the concubines will also determine what percentage of the concubine's passive stat boost will be added to the husband. So instead of giving female characters the same satisfaction stat that ends up punishing low satisfaction characters by having them leave a faction, the power of divorce during this period really wasn't in the hands of the wives. So low satisfaction from disharmony will instead just reduce the passive stat boost provided to the husband. Also, taking on more concubines beyond the allowed capacity determined by one's rank will cause further disharmony from the main wife, while having less than the full allocation will end up lowering prestige for the husband. And at the same time, satisfaction and harmony from your wife and concubines can be improved with monetary gifts. So, say you have a chance to pick up one of the more famous female characters during the period as a concubine, say Lady Sun or Sun Ren, but you already hit your limit allocated by your prestige rank. And you don't want to have any divorces because all your current concubines are also rare characters, then in this case, you will simply take Sun Ren in and go over the soft cap and take the satisfaction penalty due to jealousy from all your current wife and concubines, and then pay them off. So this jealousy does not reduce the overall stat boost you receive from your wives and concubines, which honestly is a great reflection of how wealth sometimes allowed one to overcome their normally socially allowed number of concubines. Lastly, for the real special characters such as Sun Ren, Diao Chan, Lady Bian, Lady Gan, and so on, who played a big role in history or in the novel, additional special bonuses can be given to their husband. Say Sun Ren can provide the husband with a unit of handmade guard, which provide the guard passive for the husband. Diao Chan can provide a trophy wife bonus where her husband gains a huge prestige gain for having the most beautiful woman in China, but also suffered jealousy penalties and diplomacy with all other factions who want to have Diao Chan for themselves. But in general, I truly believe that by taking the female characters off the battlefield, you can actually provide more female representation that is not only more historically accurate to the period, but also more engaging and logical in terms of gameplay. Like, for example, most of the time in my games, my characters are halfway across China from their wife, yet they're still able to get pregnant and produce babies. Also, diplomatic marriage should not be limited to just the ruling family now, as one will have more female characters that can be created, as they will no longer be a threat to oversaturate the battlefield. And two, ruling families should now have diplomatic penalties for marrying their daughter off as concubines, or if the marriage is to a non-ruling family character, which I think will also prevent the massive intermarriage network between all the ruling families in the game in the current state, where after a few turns, you are suddenly distant relatives with everyone in the game simply because you married off one of your sons or daughters to someone else. And at the end of the day, I think the entire family mechanic should get the overhaul, where each general should have their own family panel to interact with their wife, concubines, and kids, as there are numerous important characters in this time period that comes from the family trees of non-ruling families. So it's vital that they are present in the game and not just some random character spawns 100 turns into the game. For example, the vast majority of the second generation Shu roster comes as the kids of the first generation generals, and without an individual family panel with their own wives and kids, it simply doesn't make sense, and oftentimes you have these kids spawning into random factions 100 turns into the game, and you basically can't play as them. So hopefully this suggestion will not get me cancelled as we end our episode here, and next time we'll continue with a discussion on traits. And hopefully you all enjoyed this episode enough to drop a like to support the channel, and feel free to share your opinions on the matter below in the comment section, and until next time, bye!